Deleted session, January 3rd, 1979. Now, because of your friends of mine, this will be the first of several sessions dealing specifically with your problems. Before we begin, let it be understood that your problems are no more upsetting, disagreeable, or exhausting than other people's. Many do not even reach your ages. Problems are a part of human life, a condition of your existence. They are challenges, highly characteristic of all living matter. Your own problems can appear so large that you forget this. You are not inferior because you have problems. You are simply human, and if you need any proof of that, you are a part of the human species and not so isolated from others. That is it. Again, however, creative challenges are set by each individual, challenges that involve achievements, of course, of one kind or another, simple or sublime. You are not inferior because you have problems. Perfectionists, however, not only take a dim view of problems, but consider each one a blot, a proof of inferiority in themselves or others, and they see such blots everywhere. They are in a certain fashion overly conscientious, and they fear spontaneity that it be less than perfect. They fear flaws. Now, in close marriages or those of long duration, there is a kind of superimposed family personality, a composite to which each member contributes and to which all members respond. In a relationship like yours and Ruber's, this applies in a very intense manner. What you read in the old session this evening still applies to a large extent. It should be noted, as Ruber said, that the poverty angle was largely eradicated. Yet you, said to me, said preserve it in your worries about taxes, for example. For those feelings of resentment still help you continue to feel impoverished and virtuous. They serve to disconnect you from any opulent income status, put you back with the poor where you feel you belong, and hence you imagine the far greater incomes of other people, and in that comparison you come out put upon, but again virtuous. Before you moved here, you imagined, both of you, what oddities you would be in the neighborhood, and exaggerated your differences from others. Rupert did not mind spending the money for the portraits, since he would be increasing the volume of the plant, the working establishment. He would write on the back one, to show the porch was not after all for pleasure. This session you read, Rob noted, the 367th Said applied mostly to Ruber, yet you also have what I will call an overly conscientious self in battle with the spontaneous self. You have actually grown somewhat more spontaneous. Why not? Since Ruber was nicely expressing the overly conscientious selves of both of you. No one can completely do that for anyone else, of course. So you have your own struggles with spontaneity. Rupert's spontaneous self was by far the most active, and so his defenses against it, as the overly conscientious self, were more obvious than yours. Your struggles earlier, before you met Ruber, involved relationships in that you had no deep ones, allowing yourself to become close to no one. When you fall in love with Ruber, a part of you was appalled. For it, felt it must hold itself ever aloof. And in those days, Rupert's spontaneous self often met a response from your overly conscientious self, so that you appeared cold to him. And in repelling his spontaneity, you were, of course, frightened to reveal your own. You showed him often the face of the overly conscientious self. Now, you had, of course, other problems that he was not experienced enough to see, and at the time the sessions began, you were both at a low point. The release of psychic energy involved, regardless of me, was literally a new birth, bringing forth an impetus for change and creative activity. In an important sense, Rupert's abilities as a writer found their fault. He had found his direction, though that direction did not follow his beliefs. He was naturally meant to go in areas that would confound his earlier upbringing. His concern about your health also operated as a strong impetus, allowing him to break through usual frameworks, and the sessions did give you the knowledge you needed to recover. Both of you realized from young ages that you were different from others, relatively speaking, and you gloried in the differences. When you came together, you wanted to be alone together. You wanted to be alone and to work at your pursuits. You set up, little by little, certain barriers against the world. As you grew older, the feelings of the human condition became more noticeable. Your own differences from others became more apparent. As the books became more popular, you were certainly frightened in terms of privacy, of exposure personally, and perhaps Rupert felt being forced one way or another into that other world in which, after all, the two of you did not belong. To skip ahead, it is true that Rupert has not asked you to take him for a ride, and it is equally true that you have not offered. He would have gone to the party, Rob noted, at Bungalows on December 29. They said, with some encouragement from you, and you gave him none. For cleverly, when one is ready to move, the other is not. Your perfectionist tendencies tell you not to go out into the world until Rupert can walk normally and proudly. Your perfectionist tendencies, I refer to both of you, tell you that it is a crime for either of you to have a problem, whether or not the rest of the world is filled with chaos. You gloried in being alone. It was what you wanted. Now it seems that aloneness is a trap. You think of isolation and being cut off from the world, while at the same time you want little to do with it. Rupert's condition, in a way, stops you from hurting others. If you close the door in the world's face, it is because Rupert cannot walk properly. The overly conscientious self on both of your parts to a strong degree becomes a composite personality. Its beliefs are invisible because you accept them unthinkingly. The next few old sessions should be read. You have both largely, except in your work, now cut spontaneity from your lives. Your habits are so set. In that regard, you do not challenge yourselves, and to that extent, your work also suffers. Instead, advisors try to set up dialogue, each of you with the overly conscientious self, reminding it that spontaneity knows its own order, and that its defenses are overdone, with the best of good intent. You must think in terms of surprises, of spontaneity, of changed reasons. Between now and our next session, read that group of old ones, and each of you attempt to reach your own overly conscientious self. Behind all of this is the feeling that exposure is dangerous, that your true feelings must be hidden, and that the world is unsafe. Hence, your need for defenses. Read this session also over together and follow all the suggestions I have given you. That is all for this evening, but hardly all. Russet goodnight said. She said, Rupert's reaction to my following simple suggestions shows how badly they are needed, and you will doubtlessly experience your own weaker version. You need the idea of change, an idea that Rupert wants you to find exciting. Change your living room furniture, your bedroom, your kitchen, or whatever you can, simply to symbolically and slowly break you into the idea of change, and to break up the invisible funk of mental patterns that are connected with your present state. I do not care, for example, what you change. Change your hours, but think in terms of change. And now, for change's sake, to show that you can operate quite well without rigid patterns of behavior. What you simply need is a change of scene. You could indeed take a van and make it to Florida. I do not see you doing this now. You must increase your view of your own operations. What I want to say will wait, for I want you to read those old sessions first. And in all of this, remember framework 2, which deals with creative change, which is growth and obsession, and a fond good evening. Russet, thank you, says.